All right, good evening. It's 5:30 and it's Monday, June 10th, 2024. And this is the regular meeting, commission meeting of the Port of Olympia. I officially call this meeting to order. Commissioner Harding, would you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. All right, we have an agenda presented to us this evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of approving this evening's agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. First item on our agenda this evening is the Executive Director report. And Executive Director Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Commission President Ayal. So I've got some slides about just to update about things going on at the port, and then at the end wanted to address some concerns Commissioner Sabata asked me to address related to the air show and also some DNR helicopter training out at the airport. So just news of what's going on around the port. The Billy Frank Jr. Park and Trail signs are now being installed. So they're being installed over the next 7 to 14 days, but the interpretive signs will shed some light on the remarkable history that Billy Frank Jr. participated in the struggle for Indian treaty rights and his commitment to environmental justice. So we're excited to get those up. The second thing is last week we kicked off the marine terminal tours. We haven't had them since 2020. And so we had a great first shot with folks who participated. For those who couldn't make it, don't miss out next time on our port website. You can learn more and sign up for the tours. We also wanted to give a special shout out to the Washington Farmers Bureau and the American Society of Safety Professionals, the Puget Sound chapter, because they came and toured our marine terminal last week as well. And they asked lots of great questions, and we really appreciate the opportunity to share information about the terminal. And tomorrow we will be hosting the Washington Public Ports Association Legislative Kickoff. We'll be hosting it in this room. I think that meeting begins at 10 a.m., but we're going to take advantage of the opportunity to take our port partners out, and we're going to do a coffee tasting over at Batdorf and Bronson, do a little tour of the marine terminal and the port properties here in downtown Olympia, and then I think we're all going to try to go to lunch at Mercados afterwards. So that would be a good time to show our port friends and also a chance to collectively understand what's on the legislative agenda for the Ports Association. And then reminder, we have the Olympic Air Show. It's Father's Day weekend, June 15th and 16th out at the airport. And it's its 24th anniversary this year, and we encourage all those who are interested to attend. And if you're interested in getting tickets, go to the Olympic Museum, the Olympic Flight Museum website, and you can get tickets there. And now I wanted to address some concerns that have been raised associated with the air show and its impact on two endangered species, the Mazama pocket gopher and the streaked horned lark. And there were concerns about the timing of the air show, disruption to the larks in their nesting areas during the air show, and disruption to gophers from parking areas that have been designated on grassy areas. Just wanted to, for those who aren't as familiar with endangered species and the air show, the Endangered Species Act is the act through which you designate species as endangered or threatened. And the act also says for every federal agency who's going to take an action, they have to make sure that their action isn't going to impact the species or especially jeopardize the continued existence of the species. So that means here, in order to do the air show and the height at which the planes fly during the air show, there's a waiver that's necessary from the FAA. So the Olympic Air Show is putting on the air show, they need a waiver from the FAA. That waiver is the federal action that triggers a requirement to consult with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So that was done, and we did one in the Olympic Flight Museum did one as well in 2013, and I'm sorry, 2018. And it was to run from 2018 to 2023, and the FAA consulted with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The intent was for that consultation to cover 6 air shows between 2018 and 2023. And the consultation consists of, first, a biological assessment is done of the species and the proposed activities. And then the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service issues a biological opinion. And in that opinion, they identify whether they think the activities will impact the species in a negative way. And they also specify specific mitigation measures you're supposed to take to protect the species during the activity. So that was done for the air shows between 2018 and 2023. And those mitigation measures include putting in fencing before the breeding season starts for the lark in areas where there will be activities associated with the air show. And that's meant to dissuade the larks from nesting in the areas where the air show will take place. The second is for overflow parking associated with the air show. It's in spaces that are near hangars, which is less likely to be habitat for larks or gophers than the rest of the area. And it will only be short-term, the 2 days of the air show. The parking areas are also, there were 2 designated, and they're alternated between years as to when they're used. So they use parking area A 1 year, then parking area B, and then go back to parking area A. And the theory there, it's for gopher protection, that the risk to the gophers from parking is compacting the soil, and they have burrows in which they forage for food. So the compacting of the soil is the concern, and the theory is by having parking only there on a temporary basis and every other year, and also it's in an area that's less likely to be inhabited by gophers. The theory is that will overall not have a negative impact on the gopher. So those are the practices in the biological opinion. So it was through 2023. This year, we asked if there could be an extension to the biological opinion for the 2024 air show. Just today, we got the official approval authorization from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service extending the biological opinion for this year's air show. So I believe it's the same mitigation measures will apply. And then when it comes to, and there's some additional questions Commissioner Sabat asked specifically about it, I'll address as well, but just in general terms, for the DNR helicopter training, there are areas on the airport that are designated for helicopter training. They are areas in which there are known lark nesting areas. And there are certain mitigation measures we've committed to doing at the port. There in every SEPA mitigated determination of non-significance we have adopted to update the airport master plan. We have included one that says that the port agrees to avoid the following activities within nesting areas during the nesting season of April 1st through August 31st. And that's mowing, vehicle and aircraft traffic, model airplane flying, dog walking, and gatherings of people and or vehicles. So we believe that by having those designated helicopter areas in areas where there's no known nesting, that is in compliance with that SEPA mitigation measure. In addition, in 2022, we put together some best management practices for the lark and the gopher. We're negotiating a habitat conservation plan, didn't have it in place yet, and so tried to negotiate some measures that would apply in the interim. And those also included that we would use approved dissuasion techniques to discourage nesting in advance of the nesting season in areas where there will be activities. So again, trying to discourage larks from nesting in areas where we could have activities. And to the extent possible, it also said the helicopters must avoid known nesting areas in the breeding season, March 15th through August 15th annually. So again, the helicopter areas designated for their activities is outside of known nesting areas. So there were some additional questions that were asked. The first was, has the FAA submitted a proposal for the 2024 air show and beyond? As I just mentioned, we have not, or it has not. There was simply an extension asked for the 2024 air show. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has said they will ask for another biological assessment and will want to update it for the 2025 air show. And we will start the process of updating, we're doing a new biological assessment this fall. Second question was, have we engaged with the Olympic Air Museum, the City of Tumwater, or others to identify alternate sites for parking? Historically, we've not explored that option, but we could in the future. The US Fish and Wildlife Service approved parking plan, or they approved our parking plan. And we had additional safety and logistical concerns about providing parking that was some distance away from the airport. It means additional people crossing Highway 99. And if there are folks who have mobility challenges, just getting them there. Not to say those challenges can't be overcome, they just haven't been addressed historically in the past. Another question was the orange fencing dissuasion barrier installed this year prior to lark nesting season as required by the biological opinion? The answer is yes. Who has surveyed the impacted area to assess whether there are any lark nesting sites in the affected area? Airport staff inspect the area when they install the fencing before breeding season. And when they are out on the airport, they're on the lookout for larks and for nests. They particularly look for signs of nesting activity. The last question was, has the port talked with the Olympic Air Museum about changing the timing of the air show in the future to avoid lark breeding season? And yes, historically that there have been conversations around that. There were a couple of concerns. One was weather is important in an air show, and there's concerns about having it too early or too late. And then the availability of the aircraft that tend to come to these air shows. I think there was a concern about that aligning with air shows outside the season. Happy to have that conversation again this year and see about having it outside of the lark nesting season. So those were the questions. Those were some of the concerns that were raised. And I just invite folks who have additional concerns. There's a lot of detail, a lot of information around these issues. We're happy to sit down and talk to folks about them. So please let me know either by email or phone. If there are folks in the room, come up after and we can set a time to talk through those more. And one last slide. We value your input, public comment opportunities, commission meetings at our port website, through our social media, work tours, direct calls and emails. Please, if you want to meet with port staff, let us know, and then you can always request to speak as well. So that's it for now. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions or comments for the executive director report? Harding, Commissioner Basavia?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Director Smith, for that exposition of the issue, which is complex. This is something I've really spent a lot of time looking at and thinking of over the last couple of weeks, because it really raises concerns for me of how we are implementing our new mission, creating economic opportunities and building community for all of Thurston County through responsible resource use, versus our old mission, which still pops up when you Google it, and which says simply creating economic opportunities by connecting the county to air, land, and sea. So I think we've brought on a lot of aspirational vision, also referencing in our strategic plan, aspiration about sustainability and how we engage community, and that we are in the middle of a transition in how we actually do that and move beyond aspiration to achieving those things. I wanted to just flag that I looked at our delegation of authority, because there were questions. For example, came to us more from public comment and then in the form of an update today, because there is no action being sought from the commission. There's nothing that has come before us for a decision. And in part, it's because there's nothing that says that when we seek an FAA waiver, that that's a commission decision or something that hasn't been delegated at the staff level. I wanted to flag that because I'm trying to think, it can't be that just every year Black Hills comes in March and we say, oh, too late to engage, too late to think of anything, but next time. We need to have a way that we are really engaging. And so I am thinking about our authority. I am looking forward to hearing from other commissioners if this brings anything up for them, and possibly maybe in a later work session, we can do more of a roundtable around how we're doing this. So thank you for that amount of time, but this has been something I've worked on a lot in the last couple of weeks, because it does concern me when it comes up in that sort of urgent posture, and it's basically, oh, there's nothing we can do, and we've already gotten rubber stamped something for next year.
Thank you, Commissioner Basavia. Commissioner Sanders, anything?
I support Vasavada as vice chair in looking at opportunities to engage with community and setting the tone of trust and accountability and responding to concerns of the citizens. And so I look forward to a work session on that.
Commissioner Tom?
Yes, thank you, Alex. I really appreciate, or Ms. Smith, all the information on all this topic. It's really important to me too. I've done a lot of thinking and I wish we could move the air show this year. Personally, I think, that sounds like the right thing to do, but I understand, when things have moved along. So I do believe a work session is in order to discuss that, how we plan things going forward and kind of put these things on the roadmap.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to public comment, and individual public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Members of the public may comment on agenda items and other port business. Guidelines for public comment can be found on the commission rules in resolution 2022-09, Article 6. Comments should be directed to the commission as a whole and should not include comments about individual port staff or members of the public. All speakers shall be courteous in language and demeanor and shall confine remarks to those that are germane and relevant to the question or issue under discussion. So we have a list of would like to make public comment. First on the list is Sue Danver. Danver, you have the floor.
Good evening. I'm Sue Danver. This is my independent thing because I was asking questions this morning and could not get some answers. And so this is my independent thought, not Black Hills Audubon Society, for whom I usually testify. In summary, I'm disappointed at the port's administration indifference to the endangered species at the Olympia Airport. I do recognize that we have new commissioners with a new commission structure and some improvements to port's governance has occurred already. Let's hope next year the commission will protect the habitat of larks and gophers. I'm ad-libbing a bit here because it has to change. Last year, I visited a lot for which the people could park on. There were 10 to 20 cars there and tire tracks everywhere. The density of the mounds was amazing. I have never seen anything like it. I don't know if you know, but the airport is the target for the best gopher habitat in Thurston County. They were clustered. There were so many that the holes were coming up on other holes. Our investigation, though, afterward, but dozens were smashed, tire tracks all over them. Our investigation revealed this destruction was permitted, as Alex said. We are glad that the port would be getting a new permit in 2024. With our blowing the whistle so early, we assumed a remedy like a shuttle bus would be implemented. But oh no, yet to be released, because I wrote this morning, the port administration asked for an extension of the 2023 permit. So we will assume the Gopher Mounds destruction will occur again. All for the convenience of a couple dozen carloads of spectators. Port of Olympia, protect endangered species. Now you might say, hey, there are only a few gopher, what are gopher mounds? Years ago, a gopher expert explained to me that translocation of gophers often fails. This revelation pertains to smash mounds. All animals, including gophers, have limited energy. Gophers expend a lot of energy digging their mounds. If they have to dig a mound, they may not have the energy to reproduce. If they reproduce, they may not have the energy to feed their young. Please remember the gopher's needs when you park on the grass this year. And I can watch noisy airplanes fly low. Think of the street-torn logs. As you learned earlier this year, there are only 19 males left at the airport in 2023 and part of the largest colony in the Pacific Northwest, the largest colony in the Pacific Northwest. They're trying to raise their young and even just survive themselves. Port of Olympia, next year, please have the show in late August. You must do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Danver. Bob Metzger.
That's good enough. Thank you, and I'll be quite a bit shorter. And so Bob Metzger, I'm with Black Hills Audubon. I'm talking as a private citizen tonight. And first off, I wanted to thank the commissioners that were talking about a new way of doing business. I very much appreciate it. This is just going to be tacking on to that. There's a clear bias on the part of the port and the airport to do airport activities, in spite of environmental documents and mitigation measures. I understand that. I don't expect that to change. What I find very disconcerting is the disconnect between the environmental documents and mitigation measures that are currently in place and the activities that the port is, or that the airport is currently involved in. The DNR helicopter training, the air show, those are two, big examples. What I would like to see, and I guess the part of why I'm here is the response that I got, or that Black Hills got from Ms. Smith, based on our letters from, I guess, last month, and letters and testimony from last month. As biologists, as bird watchers, we clearly have a different perspective than airport administrators in what are reasonable activities. And in my mind, the activities that have happened this year are so far beyond what the mitigation measures really are, that it's just a bureaucratic shell game. So I would ask for two things. The first is more consistency between the environmental documents and mitigation measures that are in place and will continue to be in place, as like you're going to have to do another biological opinion for the air show next year. The second really is part of that. It's more consideration of the listed species in designing and implementing activities, including consideration of some alternatives that really haven't been looked at, I don't think, seriously in the past. Location and timing of the activities and how that you could reduce the effects on listed species. The board has a clear opportunity to do things better in the future. I very much hope that you take advantage of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Metzger. Next, we have Greg Griffith.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Greg Griffith, and I am representing myself this evening before you. So what I'm here to talk to you this evening about is my work that's been going on for the past several months, if not years, to nominate the KGY Studio building to the National Register of Historic Places. And I have been communicating with your staff and the Citizens Advisory Committee as well over a number of months about this effort. So at this point, it's reached, or I should say the nomination has reached and been reviewed by the administrator of the National Register Program here in Washington State, which is the State Historic Preservation Office at the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. And so that is scheduled to be reviewed by the state's Advisory Council on Historic Preservation sometime coming up soon, I believe, in June or maybe July. I don't know when that will be. So I just wanted to sort of brief you a little bit about this. I know we've got a short period of time, but the National Register is an honorary designation. So it is information, as I like to say, it's data that tells property owners that there are significant historic properties that are important for our preservation and honor as we move forward into the future. But in doing so and working on this nomination, my really goal was not only to, well, it was really to honor the history of KGY and its contributions to the entire South Sound region, but also acknowledge the architectural significance of the building itself in terms of its contributions to the cityscape of Olympia, and its representation as an important example of mid-century modern architecture. But beyond that, and I guess I want to also stress that this is not about the KGY lease or KGY staying there. It's not about that at all. I know that they're going to be leaving at the end of this year. So, but this is really to honor the history of the company and its presence on the cityscape. So for that, to that end, you know, I really urge the commission and the port staff to work to protect and preserve the building. And I understand that the port is working on a waterfront development plan in the future, and I would love to see you consider the future of that building and its contributions to whatever the port wants to do to enhance the waterfront. And also to try to find an interim use for the building after the point of its vacation at the end of this year until a definite and a permanent kind of adaptive reuse is found for the building. So I know I have 5 seconds left, or I'm over time, but I want to thank you, put those issues before you, and I'm certainly free to and happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Mr. Griffith. Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to make public comment?
Ryder had her hand raised.
Lee Reiner. Ms. Reiner there. We think we have her or no?
She's online. I don't know if you want to say.
Lee, are you there? Lee, did you want to make a comment? All right. Well, I think there's another opportunity if she wants to jump on in a minute. All right, where am I? The agenda is our consent calendar. And we have one item on there, the minutes from May 28th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Calling for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Next on the agenda is pending issues or business. And this evening we have a briefing which is a lot presentation. Matt Kennelly, Executive Director of LOT. You sir have the floor.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I'm joined here, Jocelyn Bonilla. She's our communication specialist and worked closely with Missy and staff to get this presentation ready. I'm excited to be here and share with you what we're doing at LOT. You know, we're neighbors right up the road here from your buildings. And this each year, I like to go around and just share a little bit about what we do as a utility. this time I'll give you a little bit more of an overview for those of you not as familiar. And anytime you want to come down, I'd love to personally give you a tour. So starting off with, what is LOTT? LOTT is LOTT, Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, and Thurston County. So we have board of directors, those 4 board of directors. There's 1 elected official from each of those partner governments that sit on our board. So you recognize probably all the faces here put up. Ty Menser is our president this year, and Lietta Dahlhoff is our vice president. Our mission is to preserve and protect public health and the environment by cleaning and restoring water resources for our communities. And I see responsible resource use right there on your new mission. So there's definitely a connection, and I'll share a little bit more about that later. We're a bit distinct because LOTT was formed in 1976 as actually a nonprofit corporation from the 4 partner governments. We're not like a charity in that sense that you think of it, but that was a way back then that partner governments could come together, and it was more effective to have one treatment entity for wastewater. And so in every way, we act as a public entity because we are those partnership of 4 governments. The bit of distinct thing about us is, and I say failure is not an option. Nobody wants any of their business lines to fail, but LOTT, we receive flow 24/7, 365 days a year, and failure really isn't an option. And that's how we approach our business. We're very highly regulated, so there's a lot that comes even behind how we accomplish our mission. And we're accountable on multiple levels. So it's the partner governments that formed us, but also the state and federal regulations that we have to abide by, and the ratepayers themselves. Our service area has about 124,000 people. We serve the ratepayers that we have actually through the cities. So the cities are technically the LOTT customers, and they bill the ratepayers. So when a new residence comes online or gets built within the city limits, that city connects it to water, sewer, provides those type of services. And so the cities are responsible for those collection pipes that carry that wastewater up to a certain point. And then typically when cities combine those pipes, that's where LOTT takes over, and we do the treatment. So if somebody lived in the county, then typically then a city would connect them up to service, and then they would be a ratepayer through that city, even if they may live in that urban growth area.
Just a tiny geeky question.
Sure.
Do they have then different rate structures, or?
It's the same. So somebody that lives, that it's connected to Lacey Sewer would pay the same rate if they live wherever they live, because they're paying that same rate through Lacey, for example.
But different possibly than Olympia or Tumwater.
Yeah, each city sets their own rates. The LOTT rate, and I'll share a little bit about that later, the LOTT rate is the same for all the customers.
And everybody outside those boundaries would be on septic?
Correct. And even inside those cities, there might be septics that are inside the city limits themselves too.
Outside of city limits in the county, how did they pay into LOTT, or do they?
So if they're outside city limits in the county, let's say you built a house just outside the property line of the city line. If it's in that urban growth area and the city were to connect your house to sewer, you would pay like that city's customer, for example. If you're not connected to sewer, then you'd have a septic tank and you wouldn't be a LOTT customer. So we have a whole series of regulatory requirements that we work under. The Clean Water Act, created, you've got the EPA, and that rolls down to the Department of Ecology. That's who permits us. That's who regulates us is ecology primarily, and on the water that we clean. We have a whole series of discharge limits that we have to meet on how we treat wastewater on performance, but most people don't know there's a whole series of monitoring and reporting that goes with that. We have our own lab, a lot of reporting there. We have other requirements that we have to show as far as how we operate and maintain our facility. And then how we plan our future looks a bit different than other utilities that might be connected to a municipality. So what we do a lot is we do something called annual planning. And rather than build our treatment plan out, let's say expand it for 20 years and then you grow into it, we're actually sending reports to ecology every year on how our capacity is looking. And then what what we call just-in-time planning. Basically, we build those new facilities or expansions right at the time when we need it. So we spend a bit more time and money in planning, but it pays off because when we do build that upgrade, then we take advantage of the latest technology. And a lot of times we've been able to push off projects because maybe we didn't need it because we were able to get more efficiency out of our treatment processes. So we do annual planning that way. So if you come to Lot, and again, I'd love to give you a tour, but if you come just a virtual kind of quick through the plant, you'll see just exactly what you're picturing. You picture just a bunch of equipment doing different functions. You'll see open tanks and process things going on. You'll see giant pumps because we pump a lot of water through our plant. You'll see a brown bubbling river in certain places. And then you'll start to see it clean again in these large areas we call clarifiers. And ultimately, you'll see that clean water that's got that UV disinfection. And that ultimately is that clean water per those regulations that goes out into Butt Inlet. And how we do that is at our main Butt Inlet treatment plant. That's our main treatment facility. We have one satellite facility in Lacey that's much smaller. We treat about 13 million gallons per day. So to put that in perspective, if you built a 4-story building on a football field and filled the entire thing with raw sewage, that's what comes down to Lot every day. That would hurt you. It would hurt the environment. And that's our job, is to make that clean every day, 24/7. We have the highest level of treatment on Puget Sound. Butt Inlet is down at the bottom of the sound. It's an impaired water body, so the regulations, follow that approach. But we've been doing the highest level of treatment on Puget Sound for about 30 years now. We just did a major process upgrade we're very proud of. It was a $30 million upgrade to our treatment process. And now not only do we have the best treatment on Puget Sound, but we also have some of the best in the nation. I add a slide here to share with you because this is from the Department of Ecology. And you can see where the Butt Inlet treatment plant sits. What you're looking at is the sources of oxygen depletion in Butt Inlet. Ecology actually labels this as local wastewater treatment plants, but Butt Inlet is the primary one. And it's fair to say we're the majority of that 3%. But you can see that we're only 3%. And I'm showing this because Lot still needs to do a high level of cleaning that water. We want to do the best job we can, and it's supported by our board to even treat water well beyond our permit. But you can see Capitol Lake, for example, is 62% of that impact. And so that's why our board has taken that position of supporting the estuary conversion back to an estuary. When you see external sources, that's 20%. That's what's coming down from the north. That's other treatment plants. There's 53 other treatment plants that are not doing nutrient removal like Lot, which there's regulations happening to support them to get there. And also non-point sources, that's septic tanks, for example. So that also is impact to oxygen depletion. So that's why we support things like septic to sewer conversions and offer rebates there. So what we do at Lot and where we're moving more and more into is supporting the total water quality picture, still doing the high level treatment that we do, but a lot of times it's more effective in our community to support these larger projects for the health of Butt Inlet than to continue to treat water at our plant even higher. We're going to continue to strive to do that very effectively. And we have treatment performance standards that we go by, but we submit for these awards every year. That's why it's really important for us to show through independent parties that we are getting these this high performance standard, beyond our regulations. And then we're often asked whether or not it's testifying at the state level or tours for regulators. We're often asked the question, how did Lot do it? Because there's other treatment plants that want to do this high level of treatment, or regulators and legislators that want to support other treatment like this happening. We got there over a long history of consistent investment in that infrastructure. Like I said, over 30 years, right? That it takes to actually do that, and a lot of loans in order to do those projects. But we often go to industry presentations and share what we're learning through our process. So this was fun because I dug out a picture from what the treatment plant looked like back in March of 1957, when it was just probably flowing maybe 1 million gallon per day or so. So the treatment plant started down here in 1951, and it's grown time as our community grows, and that's our job, is to support the community as we grow. But originally, treatment, what I call cost of service, originally treatment was just, here's the regulations, do it at the lowest cost you can, build a treatment plant and get it out into sound. And, you know, that's effective. And that was a great first place to start. But where wastewater treatment evolved from there was public health and thinking more about environmental protection. That's where you get more education around water quality, recovering resources like reclaimed water from treatment. That kind of came from there. So with regard to resources, one resource that we reuse is biogas. So that is the methane that comes off of part of our process. We capture that methane and we use it to generate electricity. We use it to generate heat because part of our process requires heat. And part of that heat heats up our building, our administrative building, but also goes to the Hands-on Children's Museum across the street. So we provide them with heat. But that engine generator in that green piece of equipment you see on the right-hand side, that produces about 15% of our plant-wide energy. We use a lot of, we are the largest power user in Thurston County, as I understand, and 15% of our power comes from biogas. So sometimes you hear, well, what does a lot do with this method? We actually use it all, and we could use more. And then we also reuse biosolids. So biosolids are the solid material that comes off the process. We grow the bacteria that removes nitrogen. And so biosolids are broken down in our process and stabilized. And then that is used as a soil amendment in Eastern Washington. And that soil amendment basically retains moisture in the soil. It's got nitrogen, it's got phosphorus. That's also highly regulated. You can see the difference in wheat from the one on the left is anhydrous ammonia that's been applied, and the one on the right is from biosolids. And it's run through a program that actually was started by farmers and now King County is the largest kind of operator of it. But basically the farmers actually buy the biosolids. We spend more money to get it there and to process it, but it is a marketable product over there. So it's 100% reuse of biosolids. And then reclaimed water, of which the port uses reclaimed water. We have a pipeline that connects up into your system, so you can use that for irrigation. We take reclaimed water. A portion of our flow at the Budd Inlet Treatment Plant makes reclaimed water, as does our treatment plant in Lacey that makes 100% reclaimed water out there. We infiltrate it into ponds out in the Hawks Prairie area of Lacey. You can see that in the upper right. Goes through a wetland ponds. We have it's grown up quite a bit since then. Especially, it's kind of like an oasis out there with some of the warehouses. But that infiltrates and recharges groundwater. We have a stream out in front of the Hands-on Children's Museum, just a public space. We have a tank in Tumwater that is a 1 million gallon storage tank, and it provides reclaimed water to the golf course. And we need that tank because the golf course in a single day uses 600,000 gallons per day. So you need a tank to store it all up because we don't produce that kind, in a day. So basically, that is a tank that was built into the side of the hill there. And then we worked with the city of Tumwater, who came back and built a park on top of it. So it's an overlook. And that's been our approach at LOT for a long time, to try to, when we build new facilities, try to make them accessible to the public and really integrate them into that community space beyond just the function that they need. Education program is also something that we run, and I mentioned that education space that wastewater has grown to be. Here's some numbers on how many Wet Science Center walk-in visitors we got last year. Every school district of the 3 school districts in our service area, Olympia, Tumwater, and North Thurston, send one of their classes through our program. So that's 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, depending on the jurisdiction. And we integrate it into their curriculum. We have education staff that actually, that's their job to do that. And it's really a positive thing for the community. It's also educating our community about what we do. So I mentioned the growth in wastewater and as a utility, and where we're going next more and more, what I'll call utility of the future, is how can you use the utility in your community to do even more? So I'll call it community support and climate resilience. And so in that public service space, you know, beyond just resource recovery, the community support, it looks something like this. So connection fee rebates. There's a big push in our community to convert folks from septic tanks to sewer at their choice. But that's very cost prohibitive. And so a lot offers a 50% discount to our connection fee to assist with that. We also offer connection fee discounts for low-income housing. That's a regional effort we were asked to participate in, and that's a way that LOC can help. Sanitation resources like pumping out RVs for disadvantaged folks, providing porta potties for encampments, those types of things to protect water quality. Wastewater epidemiology is a really interesting topic. If you remember hearing during COVID and you talk about COVID testing in wastewater, that's what this is. And it really took a big leap during COVID to be testing wastewater for these type of things. It's been around for a while, but really took off during COVID. And so things like RSV, the flu, all of that is coming. And if you think about it, we're not all necessarily going in and the data from testing isn't getting to the health authorities, but you can take wastewater data and it could inform the healthcare authorities about decisions that they make. We're also helping out on water quality projects like the Deschutes Estuary and supporting regional climate efforts. On the climate side, here's a graph that shows our carbon footprint over time. 2015 is the baseline year, and we're connected into Thurston County for this work. We are the largest power user, so it's our carbon footprint is significant. But if you look at the decisions that we've made over time to take advantage of that new technology I mentioned, you can see that the per capita decrease is 32%, you know, beyond just the decrease. Remember, people keep moving to town and wastewater is going to keep increasing. So it costs more to pump it, costs more to aerate it, those kinds of things. But we're proud of this decrease and we need to stay at it. What I'm excited about is that 92% of electricity, because there's so much work happening right now to convert from, let's say, natural gas to electricity or other things. We're actually mostly there on electricity. So as the state has pushed to set these limits for, you know, conversion of more and more green power, let's say 2045 is the current goal. That means that we could focus not only on continuing to reduce our electricity, but it's really exciting that as the grid goes greener, that LOC can focus on that other piece, that 8%. And that's what we're doing now with climate studies to see how we can tackle that as the grid goes greener, so that our goal is to be carbon neutral in the future as soon as we can be. So we're studying that now. Biosolids, you'll see, is actually a carbon sink. So it comes off the top on the carbon footprint.
Dr. Canelli, as we are a large neighboring landowner to LOT. Do you see any opportunities for the port to be a partner in achieving that goal with clean energy resources? Possibly.
Yeah. I mean, I think the more that we can connect on topics like this, the better. So we're doing this study that should end in probably September, October, that's just outlining all the possibilities. And that'd be a great chance for me to connect again with Director Smith and continue that conversation. Yeah, definitely. Partnership is going to be key here. So this recent upgrade I mentioned, that with that $30 million upgrade, we took a big leap forward. We saved 2.5 million kilowatt hours per year. And this was an outside firm that we hired to help us and then take the data. We used that data and submitted for an energy grant to PSC, and we got $1.1 million for that, basically reconfiguring the treatment process and taking advantage of new technology. But if you're like me, 2.5 million kilowatt hours per year, it seems like a big number, but what exactly does that mean? And so if you go to EPA website, you can just type that in and they'll give you these great numbers. So I copied them and put them in here. So it's basically 19,000 trees, 222 homes, or about 3 million miles driven. So that's in a single year that we've been able to make a dent in our carbon footprint. And you kind of saw that maybe in that bar graph in that last. I think we'll see more and more as we continue to keep that system online longer. And then when we do new projects, we look for opportunities, be it technology or otherwise. We're replacing the roof on a large process building, and we have an opportunity when we replace the roof to put solar panels on here. So it's exciting. We're going to enter into the solar arena, and that'll save just shy of 200,000 kilowatt hours per year. But to use numbers that maybe we can connect to, it's about 5,600 electric vehicle miles. That is way more vehicle miles than we drive a lot. So we'll be able to say that it powers all of our electric vehicles as we continue to convert our fleet. Certainly powers everything happening in that building on a nice sunny day, but averaging out over the year, that changes obviously during the winter and everything. But it's exciting because you can take advantage of tax rebates when you replace roofs as well. So a lot of infrastructure. I mentioned the Bud Inlet Treatment Plant. I mentioned that satellite treatment plant that we have called our Martin Way Reclaimed Water Plant. We have 3 major pump stations, a lot of sewer lines, 222 miles of those, and that 1 million gallon storage tank. And we have a plan for the future. So it's a 2050 plan that we completed last year that the board adopted. And what we found is that we treat water at a high level and been very effective at that. We actually don't need to build new treatment plants. That was the model that Lot looked at even a decade ago. And now we're just looking at making our processes more efficient, which is a greener approach overall than siting new facilities and building them. And so we're going to focus on an existing treatment facility. And we did work with the port at the time because we purchased an area, a property area between Franklin Street divides our between Franklin and Washington, I should say. You can see an area in yellow on the bottom. Those 2 blue circles are where we purchased an area just in case we need to expand in the future as well. So good coordination with the port. I'll just finish on an overview of a budget. We're doing our next biennial budget right now, but our budget is primarily driven from capital projects that we need to do and the debt we need to take on for that. So it's about somewhere between 70 and 75%, depending on the year. But this is the last budget. You can see that 73% was just the projects that we need to do to maintain all of that infrastructure. And so that's funded by ratepayers, the monthly fees that ratepayers pay, as well as connection fees. When new folks come online, they pay a connection fee. And then that helps fund new infrastructure we need to build. And so what we do every 2 years is we look at our rate and add that to each of the cities and then do a survey in the region. And you can see where the region is at that line above the $81.47. Remember, this was data prepared in 2022, 2023. But you can see that all of the rates of which lot that has in our service area are below the regional average. So when you consider that we have the best treatment on Puget Sound and below average rates, it is a good value for our community, we believe.
And are all the Thurston County, are those all just small sewer systems that were created for neighborhoods?
Those are small, yeah. So those are outside even like the urban growth area. Those are small, and those are expensive to operate. Yeah, they are. So then, and just to end on just a great history of collaboration, really appreciate staff. It just continued working together. Alex and I talk all the time, and staff has great collaborative relationships, but that comes out in capital projects. We are doing sea level rise collaboration together. Your destination waterfront, we participated in, and just a variety of other things. So thank you to your staff, and thank you to the port for having me. So I'll answer any questions that you have.
Great. Commissioner Basada, do you have any questions?
Just on that the slide before this, Director Kennelly, what's the lot's connection to the Bush Prairie Habitat Conservation Plan?
That was just us weighing in because we have facilities in the area and land for us to comment on when that conservation plan was developed. Our staff was asked to comment. So I can get you more information. I know that we had an opportunity to collaborate together on that I'll give you some more information on. Yeah.
Great. Commissioner Sanders, anything?
Oh, I was just curious about the support from Ecology and Squaxin Island Tribe through your 2050 plan.
Right. So went and presented to the Squaxin Island Tribe and just let them know, similar to the State of the Utility, what we're doing. We worked with staff, particularly when it came to what our future change of not building new treatment plants and focusing more on our main treatment plant. And it was really critical to get Ecology and the Squaxin Island Tribe support, because if our plan was to continue to treat at a high level and discharge into Butt Inlet that clean water, and there was like, no, we think you should not discharge at all into Butt Inlet, that would be a problem, right? If we changed courses. So they understood that what we were looking at for our future would be to do what we plan on doing, would be maintaining our existing facilities. If we needed to somehow stop discharging in the summer to Butt Inlet, it would involve a $200 million project to basically put a 8-mile pipeline down to another property we own in the south. It was just so dramatically different. Talking through with them, they were supportive of it. And it helps because we're doing things on the water quality side elsewhere as well. So they're seeing that we're actively participating in a water quality project.
Thank you.
Commissioner Khan?
No questions, but thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, WAT's one of those organizations that always seems to make it look easy. So best in class. I didn't realize that the nation as well as the state. So you guys have a great team and very respected. So thanks for letting us be a part of it. Hopefully we can do more.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's great to work together.
I have a couple of quick questions. You mentioned the tank in Tumwater that is for reclaimed water to irrigate the golf course. How does the water get to the tank?
There's a pump station down below the tank that connects right into the irrigation system for the city. So they disconnected their drinking water supply and connected up to reclaimed water. Yeah, but there's a booster pump station because it needs to have even more pressure.
And then you mentioned that Lot's clients are actually the 3 cities. But then you talked about septic to sewer connections and connection fees. So do you charge the homeowners connection fees and get at a discount?
So everything works through the cities.
Yeah.
So when Lot had the program that the board approved for a 50% discount on connection fee, the way that works is a rebate. So basically the cities take care of all that paperwork and then they just pay us 50% less. So they do all of that paperwork.
That's
All
why
right.
you're so happy.
Yeah, we don't have our own billing department. We have 2 people that do accounting for us, so not the whole billing group and everything.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. Very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the action calendar. And we have one item on the action calendar, a budget amendment. Butt Inlet Cleanup and Restoration. Sean Gilbertson, Director of Environmental Planning and Programs. You have the floor.
All righty. Good evening, Commissioners. Happy to be here today. And as the President said, I am going to talk about the Butt Inlet Cleanup and Restoration Project. We have an action item that is a budget amendment. And again, I'm Sean Gilbertson, Director of Environmental Planning and Programs. So today's presentation, we are asking for action, and it's a request to adopt a budget amendment resolution, which was in the packets. And this will effectively transfer $2 million from the port reserves to the Butt Inlet Cleanup and Restoration Project. Just a real brief summary. I'm not going to go through the previous presentation. I did present on May 28th with a little more information on this and why it's needed, but this funding helps get us into West Bay to continue our investigation under the agreed order. And as you can see on the map there, in East Bay, where the blue is and all the dots with labels, that's where we sampled in January and February of this year. And the red area in West Bay is where we intend to continue the investigation later on this year. This $2 million helps us get to that point and do the sampling and investigation work earlier than we had intended. So an aggressive schedule is paid for us and put us a little bit ahead of our investigatory schedule. That's really all I had as far as the presentation goes, and I'm happy to answer questions or hear comments, and I do have a suggested motion here on the screen. Thank you.
I would move to adopt Port of Olympia Resolution 2024-04 to amend the 2024 Port of Olympia operating budget to transfer $2 million from Port of Olympia reserves to the Bud Administration project budget.
Okay.
Right, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion?
I just can't imagine being ahead of schedule. So exciting. And I think that we have really committed, the previous commission committed, and this commission has recommitted that we want to see this work completed. And thanks for all of your hard work. And love having Executive Director Smith on board too, looking at things with her expertise and continuing to move us forward.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other discussion?
Oh, I just want to second what Commissioner Harding said. I am excited that we are ahead of schedule and that this motion will help keep the momentum going and succeeding in our deliverables and the cleanup of Bud Inlet. So thank you for your hard work and putting all this in motion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll just add that the port does many things, but this is one big thing. And I know that it's taking a lot of, definitely your leading and a lot of time from our leadership. And so as we look to the other challenges and the things we're juggling and the balls that sometimes get dropped, like this is the one ball we're not going to drop. And it's going to be transformative for the region. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, hearing no further discussion, we have a motion to adopt Port of Olympia Resolution 2024-04 to amend the 2024 Port of Olympia operating budget to transfer $2 million from Port of Olympia reserves to the Bud Inlet cleanup and restoration project budget. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Moving on to action other calendar. We have two items. Oh, no, we don't. We have one item on the action other calendar. Budget amendment, port debt reduction evaluation. Tad Koff, Director of Finance.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tad Koff, Director of Finance. This presentation will be about the debt reduction proposal. It is an action other item with approval requested. This is a follow-up to the detailed debt reduction presentation given on May 28th. So I'll be rather succinct because that was anything but. Current bond debt and presented scenarios is what we went over. With a staff recommendation that I've actually modified for this and a proposed motion language, which I will do shortly. These are the scenarios, just to go through them really quickly, that we offered. There were 3 different scenarios that we arrived at using different levels of funds, either from the CVC sales and or general fund to gain defeasance and reduction in debt. In the last presentation, the staff recommendation was 2. And this is the kind of the more numeric version of the same thing, but less graphical just for reference. And in this final proposed action, staff based on the discussion and general feedback from that presentation, is going to recommend adopting scenario 1 at this time, with evaluating further debt reduction during the budget process for 2025. And that leads me to questions and comments and the suggested motion.
I would move to adopt Port of Olympia Resolution 2024-05 to amend the 2024 Port of Olympia operating budget to authorize the use of $5.2 million proceeds from the sale of the Lacey Commercial Business Center CBC building to create an escrow account to defease the remaining outstanding debt from the LTGO bond 2016B.
That's a mouthful. Sorry about that.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion on the motion? Commissioner Sanders?
Oh, I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to adopt scenario 1 so that we can further evaluate debt reduction during our 2025 budgeting cycle, because we haven't yet met on that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, great progress. I agree.
Question?
I just want to acknowledge that the CBC building was a good investment for the Port of Olympia, and one where we not only were able to cover our costs and expenses and debt obligations, but with the cash positive. So, correct? Yes.
That's true. And actually, this action would make it a little bit more so by defeasing it early, gives you a little bit more benefit too.
Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge that this is kind of at the tail end of a successful real estate investment. So great job. And I look forward, I appreciate the being nimble with the feedback from the commission, and there being the potential to pay down some additional debt once we assess the rest of our obligations.
Right, before I call for the vote, is there any public comment on this budget amendment? Anyone on Zoom? Missy?
No raised hands on Zoom. Oh, and one. Oh, wait, she just lowered it. Right.
Ms. Reiner, you have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, yes, so am I only allowed to comment just on this budget item, or I can't remember, am I allowed to make my general comment, or what, how am I allowed to speak? Do you know, Bob?
Well, Ms. Reiner, because you had technical difficulties before, if you want to spend your 3 minutes, you can go right ahead.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I just wanted to commend the meeting tonight. I heard a lot of good things, and I wanted to say thank you. I believe I heard 2 or maybe even 3 port commissioners say tonight that we needed work sessions, and we needed work sessions on various issues that were addressed tonight. And thank you for those comments. I know Jasmine made that first statement, work sessions, and I heard some other commissioners say something to that effect. I think there are 3 or 4 work sessions we should have. I know that when the Port of Olympia had their town hall with Alex Smith, which went very well, and we really appreciated that. Alex Smith said we were going to have more town halls. She said we were going to have public work sessions, and Alex Smith said she was going to bring in Department of Ecology officials and scientists to address some of these very complicated issues. But anyway, my list for work sessions, we need a work session dealing with the airport expansion, and this issue about the larks and the endangered species. That would be one work session. Obviously, that would not attended to, and we got the permit today, which is unconscionable. Number 2, we need a work session on the Bud Inlet cleanup. A lot of us feel that the toxic cleanup of hot spots has not been fully designated. In fact, there are hot spots that are not on the cleanup, and we want to have those hot spots addressed. So that would be another work session issue. Another work session issue has been addressed before by the POTAC. The Citizens Advisory Committee said that they did not support the Vision 2050 survey that was done. They said they wanted nothing to do with it because they thought it was fundamentally flawed. Vision 2050. I believe we need a work session on that. And then the last thing, we heard a wonderful presentation on lot. I think we need a work session on lot because essentially they're discharging into Bud Inlet. As the gentleman said, they can't discharge during certain times of the year because the pollution, the oxygen level is so bad, it's killing all the animals in Bud Inlet. So if all you people who talk and talk, oh, you're gonna clean up this and that, let's have work sessions where we can actually delve into these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reiner.
2 more raised hands. This is Joel Carlson.
Mr. Carlson?
I just wondered if a lot could clean up Bud Bay and the estuary enough that you could swim in it and raise seafood.
All right, thank you for your question. Is there one more public comment?
Debbie Patton.
Ms. Patton, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm definitely in favor of this debt reduction. The more that we can lower the debt, pay down our bonds, and continue to do the good work that the port is doing, I think that's a win-win for everybody. May I make another additional comment while I'm here in response to something that was just said about the POCAC?
Go ahead.
I think what Ms. Reiner just said about the POCAC and Vision 2050 is not accurate. Maybe we could have another meeting sometime to discuss that, but the POCAC on the 17th of June is going to give a presentation on the Vision 2050 work, as well as an update on the destination waterfront. That's at 3:30 during the work session with the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patton. No other public comment?
No other raised hands.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. The motion is to adopt Port of Olympia Resolution 2024-05 to amend the 2024 Port of Olympia operating budget to authorize the use of $5.2 million of proceeds from the sale of the Lacey Commercial Business Center building to create an escrow account to defease the remaining outstanding debt from LTGO bond 201 or 2016B. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we'll move on to the advisory calendar. First up on the advisory calendar is a review of legal services, and that's about the RFP. So Executive Director Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm here in lieu of Ben McDonald, who is out celebrating the 10th birthday of his son. So taking over for him. So this is just an advisory, and just to inform the commission that we, as you know, put out a request for proposal for legal services, since we will soon be losing the services of our trusted counsel, Rick Hughes. So on May 15th, 2024, we received responses for the proposals for legal representation and general counsel services for the port. The background is, unfortunately, we will be losing Rick Hughes at the end of this month. His contract with the port expires and he's going to go do relaxing and fun things. We got the request for proposal, and it was to interested parties to respond to provide legal services to the port. We got responses from 5 firms. Of those 5, only 3 indicated that they were interested in providing general counsel services. The other ones were interested in, if we have an issue in this area or that area, they were open to working for us. But in terms of general counsel services, there were only 3 that wanted to do that. And of the three, a small group of us internally reviewed the proposals and scored them and decided that there were two that stood out, and we will interview those on June 18th and come back to the commission with a recommendation. So the scoring matrix that we used in reviewing the request for proposals had a scale of 100 points. And we evaluated based on their experience representing municipal governments and especially ports, because as we know, ports are different. We scored them on their proposed approach to serving the port's legal needs, on their subject matter expertise and experience, and we wanted to make sure they're licensed, insured, and had no conflicts of interest. And then we also evaluated the fee structure that they proposed. So the interviews that we are going to hold with the top two firms are with Ogden Murphy Wallace and Dixon Froelich Phillips PLLC. So the next steps is actually a misnomer. We will not be bringing it back on the consent agenda for commission action. We will bring it as an action item so that the commission has a chance to evaluate it and discuss the recommendations that come from the interviewing committee. And we'll bring it back on June 24th, just in the nick of time before Rick Hughes is off doing fun things. So that, I believe, is it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are you able to share what other ports either of these firms have provided services for?
I believe Dixon Froelich is they are the attorneys for the Port of Tacoma and maybe the Seaport Alliance as well. And Ogden Murphy indicated they are, I believe it's Port of Kalama and one of the ports up north, Port of, I think, Port of Port Angeles. Yeah, so they've represented other ports. Sound ports.
Represented us when it was Phillips Burgess previously.
Yeah, yeah. So they have experience representing ports specifically.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a comment. Oh, sorry.
I just had a question about the third firm. Do you have any other additional information you could share on the scoring system or why they possibly rated lower?
They did not have port-specific experience and they had little municipal experience. They had represented other types of clients, but it was not as much sort of municipal and port experience.
Great, thank you.
I have a slight concern if we're going to pull in a single commissioner or two commissioners to help with vetting certain things, that we understand the process by which we make that selection. It seems like probably we should be just designating subcommittees or something like that. Otherwise, it would be important to provide the explanation of how you're selecting specific people to participate in specific decisions.
And on this one, Commissioner, it was simply we picked Rick Hughes, Ben, myself, and then the board president in evaluating the applications we got and the responses to the request for proposal. But happy to have a conversation so that we establish a process so that all commissioners have an opportunity to either choose to participate or to understand the process for picking committees to evaluate these things.
And maybe we should look again at the delegation of authority and see if it can help provide us some clarification on how we do that.
You do it.
And I apologize, I won't be able to attend the interviews because I'm gonna be out of town during the time prior to the decision being made. Are you still wanting another commissioner to participate?
Sent out an email this morning on that and yeah, we'd love to. We've got the interviews scheduled for June 18th. And so in part, it's sort of how it fits with folks' schedules, but we'll love to have two commissioners if we can.
I personally, I think having two commissioners and the team that you've put together, I'd be comfortable hearing the direction recommended.
Yeah, two commissioners sounds good to me.
All right. Let's check and see if there's any public comment for review of legal services RFP. Anybody have any comments on this topic?
And
All right, we will move into the second item on the advisory calendar, Airport Engineering Services Agreement. Chris Paolini, Airport Senior Manager. Floor, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you very much. Well, again, I'm Chris Paolini, the Airport Senior Managers, came on board April 1st. This is my first presentation, so thanks for letting me be here. I was gonna smash champagne against the podium, but I decided not to do that. So, but anyways, again, thanks for letting me be here. Tonight's presentation.
Nice catch.
Hindsight's always 2020. Anyways, as mentioned, I'm Chris Tony, the Airport Senior Manager. Tonight's presentation is advisory only. It's regarding the selection of an aviation and engineering services firm. The purpose is for the airport to seek a highly specialized engineering firm competent in FAA regulations and airport design standards to support FAA grant and locally funded airport projects for up to a 5-year period. This contract will provide engineering and other related services in support of projects funded by the Federal Aviation Administration, as well as port-funded airport maintenance and improvement projects. The engineering firm will be utilized to support projects listed in the airport's capital improvement plan, which is a 5-year project plan updated annually by the FAA. The projects anticipated for the next 5-year period serve to update aging infrastructure, maintain port assets, and meet the goal of good stewardship set in the strategic plan. I do want to make one note, just in light of some public comments in recent days. There are no planned projects for the expansion of the airport's footprint, either presented tonight or as part of this project or in plan at all. So just want to make sure that that was clear moving forward. Summary of services. Consultant services are needed for the following types of work: airport planning, geotechnical study and analysis and survey, pre-design and design, environmental studies, construction management, safety and security area improvement, airspace and aviation analysis, and then FAA grant preparation, administrative services, and so forth. And please, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to stop me during any of these slides. Potential projects that we would include in the next 5-year period is a runway 1735, which is our main runway, LED lighting improvement project, a runway 1735 pavement design and repair project. And again, just to clarify, this is for a design and repair of existing pavement, not to extend the runway. Also a runway 826 design and reconstruction, taxiway and apron reconstruction and maintenance to meet current FAA design standards, hangar development, and environmental studies. The proposed budget, this engineering services contract will be on an as-needed basis. The contract will be set up as a not to exceed amount using individual task orders for each project, which will require separate approval. The desired not to exceed amount requested is 1.5 million for the 5-year contract period. The status as of right now is a request for qualifications was published by the port on May 6th of this year and closed last Friday, June 7th. And as of Friday, more than 10 firms had downloaded the RFQ document. So in summary, the airport is seeking a highly specialized engineering firm competent in FAA regulations and airport design standards to support FAA grant and port-funded airport projects. The airport is seeking a contract term not to exceed 5 years. However, the port is not obligated to use the firm for the 5-year period if the firm does not meet the port expectations. In July, the commission will be asked to approve a contract with a not to exceed amount of 1.5 million. But it's important to note there is no minimum requirement. So no minimum expenditures expected. At future dates, the commission will be asked to approve individual projects served under the contract per port policy. So next steps, future commission action again will be requested sometime in July. Commission action options are: 1, to approve the contract as I believe was presented for the dollar amount as presented. The result would be airport projects would move forward as planned. Option number 2 would be to approve the contract but amend the not to exceed amount. The result would be we would still move forward with projects. However, depending on the amount of money each project's would cost, we may have to come back to the commission to increase the not to exceed amount or possibly risk not doing all projects that are planned. And then of course, the third option is to take no action, which will result in the possible loss of FAA grants by not being able to proceed forward with projects. And again, just advisory only, and we'll come back next in July for an action item, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns that the commission has this evening. Thank you.
Commissioner Tong, any questions, comments?
Yeah, so thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the information. For runway 826, is that going to be a new runway? This is design and reconstruction. Is that currently in?
Appreciate the question. Thank you. I should have clarified that. So runway 826 is our second runway. It's a crosswind runway. It's about 4,500 feet. I don't know if I can look over at Warren for commission. So in our plan is to actually shorten that runway. So that'll, I believe the new length will be around 3,500 or 3,700 feet. So don't quote me on that. I can get back to you with an exact number, but it'll be to narrow the runway and shorten that runway.
Why do you need to narrow and shorten the runway?
So two reasons. To narrow the runway is currently overbuilt for the size aircraft that it uses by current FAA design standards. There's certain widths and lengths for the aircraft the runway is designed for. This is a more of a general aviation runway to be used. So the aircraft that would use it, the narrower runway would be more than adequate to meet the needs. And then to shorten it would be to again meet the needs of the aircraft that use that runway.
So the runway is in, I guess, disrepair, so it needs to be, it needs work anyway, and so you're just gonna narrow it and shorten it throughout the process, or during the process.
Correct. Yeah, as part of previous budget decision conversations. Yeah, in short, yes, it is in disrepair. Visibly, you can see that. So part of the design process, if you actually take 4 samples of the runway, make sure to actually confirm the asphalt condition, but also more importantly, confirm the condition of the subgrade underneath the asphalt and see just how much of a design rebuild we have to complete.
Any other questions, Commissioner Hardy?
Oh, sure. We've been talking about the airport funding and finance and how because all of the property adjacent to the airport was given to us by the FAA to support airport operations, the monies earned there stay with the airport. So this money would be a part of that, correct? This isn't coming out of our general operating or our tax revenue. This is coming from revenues that are generated at the airport and the adjacent industrial campus that was given to us by the FAA.
So I'll answer part of that question. I'd probably get back to you on a more detailed answer, but some of these projects are actually would be grant funded. So the FAA would be providing a 90% funding for those projects. And there's also the additional potential of a 5% match for the remaining 10% from WashDOT Aviation. So it'd be a 95% from grants, 5% from local port sponsorship. Currently I would like to get back to you because I'd like to either let our finance director speak to that on how the funds currently move through the port. But our funds, these funds, any funds matching this would come from the capital budget, which is the port's general fund.
And on that note, a related question is, I don't see a budget amendment teed up, so this is it, regardless of whether there's a fenced funding, which is a different issue, is this an investment that was already anticipated in our annual budget and you're just asking us to approve a contract?
Correct. So these projects. Correct. So some of these projects for this year, the projects that we would start this year are already in the budget. So this is just a contract to allow us to move forward with that. The projects the projects for next year will be brought forward in the budget later this year. For example, the runway 1735 LED lighting project, as well as the runway 1735 repair project as well. So each of those projects would come forward in each individual. So when the commission approves this contract, they're not approving the spending of $1.5 million. You're still gonna have opportunities to approve the projects that this contract would supply the engineering services for.
Can you provide us as a follow-up an update on what is budgeted currently in our budget to pay this funding?
So for next year, well, repeat that question. I may have missed, before I answer, repeat that question. I'm sorry.
I hear that this contract will go beyond our current budget year into the one we're about to start planning. So I understand that. But to the extent these services are currently budgeted in our, like how we show it in our financials, can you bring that back to us?
Sure.
I'd like to see that. And I have another question. To the extent we seek FAA waivers as for the use of the airport property, are you aware of any additional waivers that we are seeking right now from the FAA?
like in relation to like to the air show? Is that?
That's what triggers the question, but I'm wondering, I am concerned that this also unlocks all kinds of work possibly, and if we don't have a system to know what it's unlocking, I'm wondering, are you aware of any other waivers we're currently seeking from the FAA?
No, there's no other waivers that we're pursuing.
Mr. Sanders?
So this is over a 5-year period, correct? And so my question, I guess being a new commissioner, that the RFQ went out, is this like historical past practice of the Port of Olympia to have engineering services to get through FAA and projects and?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is, okay.
And not just the port, most airports will utilize an aviation engineering services firm. It's just very specialized field.
And to get to the 1.5, it's up to, so it's project based and it'll go before the commission prior to each project that needs to be completed throughout the terms of what listed.
Yeah, per port policy, correct. Yeah, per port policy, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sanders, as a follow-up, does this then, did we have a previous 5-year contract that is expiring with someone?
There's not an active one. We've had previous contracts in the past, but not a current one.
Was my question.
Things organized over there.
Everything's organized.
Good.
Planning ahead.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see if there's any public comment regarding the Airport Engineering Services Agreement.
Raised hands on the.
No raised hands.
Wow. One down, Chris.
Yeah, good job. Right.
Go get that bottle of champagne.
Right.
All right, thank you for that. So moving on now to commissioner reports, a discussion. Let's see who's next. Commissioner Harding.
Okay. Well, I had the opportunity to utilize one of our port services, the fuel dock, for the first time. And I just wanted to report to Warren and to Alex as well, but Steve at the fuel dock not only was helpful, responsive, informed, he had cleanup towels, he was just wonderful. But the pride that he had in his job and working at the Port of Olympia was just it was touching. It really was. So that's something that has come throughout all of our turnover and turmoil. The people that work at the Port of Olympia, especially outside of this building, but in our operations, really are proud of working here. And it was cool. And what a class act the fuel dock is. I've never been there before. So and my quote of the day is from Martha Beck. Oh, one more thing. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee, which is one of the committees that I represent on behalf of the port, is going to be taking a tour of potentially landfill, learning how our trash is processed and composting is processed. So if any other commissioners are interested in attending that, I think it's going to be really cool. It hasn't been formalized yet, but I'm just planting a little seed. So Martha Beck, having fun is not a diversion from a successful life. It is the pathway to it.
Right, thank you very much. Commissioner Vasavada.
Well, I just wanted to say I had a chance to engage community for the first time as a speaker, as an elected port commissioner at Panorama in Lacey. I had a chance to visit with the Thurston Housing Land Trust and the Conservation Farmland Trust. And it was really a pleasure. These are organizations that have formed to help create permanent affordable housing. I called it the Community Farmland Trust, and to preserve land for specific purposes. In the case of farmland, that is part of our agriculture is a major industry here for Thurston County and the region. So it was very enjoyable, and I really it was inspiring to hear what these organizations are doing and looking for opportunities for the port as a landowner to possibly be a partner in the future as we evolve our sense of mission.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanders.
Oh, I just want to mention that, I didn't mention previously is that when I attended the study meeting, in May, we were at Lacey Makerspace, and so that was a really amazing place to have our meeting at, and they have a lot of opportunities to help, you know, people launch their business or become members. And so it was really exciting to attend that and learn that, the director there knew my brother, my late brother Alex McCarty, and he and my brother Micah McCarty is a member, and his son Kefren is a member, and it's just amazing to see that they're, you know, it helps and assists people, you know, Thurston County wide, and knowing that my brother is an Indigenous artist who can work there and be a part of the community and community building. It was awesome. And so I just wanted to mention that attending this study meeting. And speaking of steady, I know that part of George's dream was to have large size checks.
They're coming.
Okay, and so I wanted to follow up with that, so that, I mean, the photo op and, you know, holding that big check for the small cities experiences.
21st in Rainier.
Okay, June 21st in Rainier, so, yeah, so that's all, that's what I'm gonna say.
Cool. I wanted to share about the Experience Olympia retreat coming up this week. Very excited to get to work on the destination master plan, so going to work on that. And then another opportunity that I think we all saw in our email was the Timberland Regional Library has asked to come speak to us, and I think that's a really important opportunity. They're a great organization who have really benefited me personally and our community as a whole, so I look forward to hearing from them.
Great.
Can I ask you a question? Did that get scheduled, or do you need more feedback from the commission on that? I may have dropped the ball.
It's in the works.
It is, okay,
It's in the works, yeah.
August 12th, okay.
All right, thank you for that. Moving on to other business. Is there any other business this evening?
I wanted to make this comment under other business. This has been such a time of transition for our staff and the commission. And I just want to recognize the executive team and our leadership team here. We all expect everything. And Chris, what about this? And Alex, what about this? And just recognizing that people are inheriting things that have been a long time in their creation. And although we all want things to change quickly, I appreciate both the commission and the public's patience as we allow our team to really move through these issues. Government doesn't move quickly, and that's something that's very frustrating to me as a public sector person or private sector person, but I've actually come to appreciate why that is, because quick decisions don't protect the public. And so we can't have quick decisions no matter what it is. So I think just having some patience with the process. Sometimes we want the ends to justify the means, but there's a reason we're moving a little steadily through this. So thank you to the team. I thanked our operation team in my previous comments, but I want to thank the third floor as well. So.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Harding. Any other business? I would like to say that I think we should go ahead and designate another commissioner for the review of the legal services RFP, and maybe save Alex and Missy some legwork here if we can decide who will be the other commissioner that participates. Any thoughts? Suggestions?
I suggest Commissioner Vasavada, their experience as an attorney as well as knowledge of the topic.
Okay.
I am interested, I will happily engage if it can be timed. I have 2 other engagements on June 18th at 10 and at 3, I think. I've just sent you an email. So if there's flexibility there, it was something initially I was interested in participating in. And if not, I don't know if any of you have availability that day.
I think, well, have the times been set?
we're trying to work with the law firms availability as well.
I know they worked for me and I'd love to have you there, but I'd prefer not to change the times. If you can make the times,
I can't move the things I have at those two times, so you can let me know what time you're available and we can go from there.
And I would just say, I think sometimes it can be intimidating to, if you're not a lawyer, but as a lawyer, I would value any of the commissioners' feedback. I think as much as anything, it's just having, sometimes a fresh perspective is good. So I don't think you're getting into the weeds on legalese. Rick, would you agree that you don't need legal expertise necessarily to be able to make a?
Actually, it might be helpful to have a non-lawyer in the discussion,
Yeah, we already have a non-lawyer in the discussion.
but another one.
So either, but I understand the need for certainty. So if the times don't work for you, Commissioner Vasavada, is that correct? They do not?
I don't know. I haven't been told the time.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, the current times are the ones that were in the email that you indicated don't work for you. So we can ask the law firms. So it's June 18th, 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Yeah,
I would be willing to.
you would?
Yeah.
Great. So is that clear?
so if Commissioner Vasavada can make it, she'll be there, or if not,
No, I have a conflict at 10 a.m. So I think it would be great to go forward with Commissioner Sanders if that is the time that's been set.
right? That, and then we all agree on that? Is that okay?
Thank you for,
Okay,
well,
yeah.
thank you for being able to do that.
Thank
Sorry to can't participate.
Okay, moving on to meeting announcements. Executive Director Smith.
So we have upcoming in June, we have a work session on June 17th at 3:30. And as was mentioned earlier, we will have POCAC in, have a conversation with the commission about the work that they've done and recommendations they'd like to make to the commission. And also so the commission can provide feedback to the POCAC about what they would like from them. On the 18th, we have the POCAC will have their meeting at that 6 p.m. here in the Olympics room at Port of Olympia. And then on June 24th, we have a regular commission meeting, regular business. And then following that, July 8th, we have another commission meeting, regular business, 5:30 p.m. here in the Olympics room, downtown Olympia.
All right, any questions, comments on the meeting announcements? Hearing none and seeing no further business, I officially call this meeting adjourned.